Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be going over the top 10 luxury cars in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now there's going to be some SUVs on this list, there's going to be some 4-doors, there's going to be some 2-doors, all kinds of stuff. Let's get into it. We're going to start off with number 10. Alright guys, and starting off with number 10 we have the Dubocci Exemplar. Now the Dubocci Exemplar is based off of an Aston Martin Rapide or a Rapide S in real life. It is basically Aston Martin's version of a 4-door luxury sedan, and the Exemplar in GTA has achieved the same thing that Aston Martin wanted to achieve in real life. It's a pretty good little sports car, and it's a 4-door. So you can ride around with 3 of your friends in this thing while you drive. Now the Exemplar is not the fastest car ever, I'm not gonna lie, it's actually pretty slow. But for what it is pretty cool. Now of course it's not going to be the fastest car on earth, you're not going to win any races with it, but if you want to pull up in style for a reasonable price, the Exemplar is a pretty damn good choice. This thing only costs about $140,000 in GTA, which these days, let's be honest, that is chump change. If you don't have $140K to spend on a car, you need to go and get your money up. Just kidding, but for real guys, the Exemplar is a great car. It's going to be the cheapest car on this list by a pretty good margin, and it's definitely a pretty good entry-level luxury car if you guys are into it. You can of course buy this thing off of Legendary Motorsport. Now obviously there's some cheaper luxury cars out there that you can go for, but this is the top 10, so we had to start off with the Exemplar. Anyway guys, that is it for number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Alright guys, next up at number 9 we hit the ENUS Huntley S. Now the Huntley is a great SUV in Grand Theft Auto Online. It's a really good entry-level SUV. As far as SUVs go, it's actually pretty darn quick, and it's also pretty cheap. This thing goes for $195,000 on Legendary Motorsport, and for that price you do get a pretty awesome SUV. This thing has a lot of customization features that you can actually do to it to make it more your own. Albeit there's not an absolute ton, but there are quite a few. Now everybody says that the Huntley is based off of the Bentley Bentayga, but this thing actually came out before the Bentayga came out in real life. So it's more likely that it is based off of the Bentley Bentayga concept rather than anything else. Regardless of that though, the car is actually pretty awesome in Grand Theft Auto Online. Like I mentioned before, it is actually no slouch. This thing handles very well, I would say, and it also accelerates pretty decently as well. Overall, the Huntley is just a really solid SUV, pretty luxurious, definitely. I mean, being based off of a Bentley Bentayga concept car, it's probably going to be a pretty luxurious vehicle, let's be honest. Anyway guys, the Huntley is at number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Alright guys, next up at number 8 we have the absolute classic ENUS Super Diamond. This thing has been in GTA 5 Online since day 1, and it is still one of the most luxurious cars in the entire game. Albeit the interior is definitely very outdated by now, however the car has some pretty timeless looks, and overall you can just tell when this car drives around on the street that it is a pretty luxurious vehicle. Obviously being based off of a Rolls Royce in real life, definitely will have an impact on your status as a vehicle in the game. Now the Super Diamond is not going to be one of the fastest cars ever, that is for sure. I would say it's probably actually a bit slower than the Dubocci Exemplar. However, this thing does accelerate very nicely, although the handling is a different story. The handling of the car is not bad, but it is very likely that the tail end is going to slip out. However, it's not the worst thing ever. If you want a luxurious drift car, the ENUS Super Diamond is a great car for you to actually pick up, because this thing drifts really well, surprisingly. Overall, I think the Super Diamond is a car that everybody should own in Grand Theft Auto Online if you plan on doing something where you're going to need to pull up in style at any point. The Super Diamond is a pretty solid car for that, and it only costs $250,000. Now it does have a real lack of customization, but with a car that looks this good, you really don't need the customization in the first place. Anyway guys, that is it for number 8. Let's move on to number 7. Alright guys, next up we have the Cognoscenti 55. This is a very good luxury vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online, and this is actually one of my personal favorites. I have had a Cognoscenti 55 for as long as I can really remember. I think when this thing came out, I bought it, and I've really never got rid of one. Overall, the car is just so solid. It is of course a 4-seater, which is very helpful, and the overall look of the Cognoscenti 55 I think is just so classic, so luxurious. It is a great looking car. Now with this car, it actually has a tiny bit of customization that you can do to it, but one of the main things that helps to make it a little bit more luxurious is you can actually change the interior color of this vehicle, which is a very nice feature to have. As far as the interior goes, it's nothing too special, unfortunately. I wish that there was a little bit better upholstering in here, maybe some cooler seats, maybe some higher definition textures. For what it is, it's not too bad. Now talking about the performance of the Cognoscenti 55, it is probably better than the ENUS Super Diamond. Not much, but it does tend to handle quite a bit better, which is probably an improvement. Even though I really like how the Super Diamond handles, the 55 is just a little bit better, I'm not gonna lie. Overall, the 55 is also faster in a straight line, I would like to say. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I have a pretty good feeling that this thing is faster than the Super Diamond. Overall, guys, the Cognoscenti 55 is a super underrated car in Grand Theft Auto Online. I almost never see anybody driving a Cognoscenti 55 in the game anymore. Now, there could be multiple reasons for that, but regardless, if you pull up in this thing, a lot of people aren't even gonna know what you're driving, which does kind of give you an extra factor of luxury, because if something is really exclusive or people don't know about it, they're gonna think that it's a little bit more rare. So the Cognoscenti 55 is a great luxury car. I think that everybody should own one of these in Grand Theft Auto Online. Anyway guys, that's it for number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Alright guys, next up at number 6 we have the Pfister Astron. This thing is based off of a Porsche Macan Turbo in real life, which means in GTA it is a pretty luxurious car. I think that Rockstar did a really good job with not only their copyright infringement on this car, but also with the car in general. Overall, the interior is quite a lot better than most of the other cars that have been on this list so far, so that is a good start. In addition to that, the car itself looks absolutely amazing. Rockstar did a really good job with this thing. It looks just like the Porsche Macan Turbo in real life, which is a pretty luxurious SUV, albeit not the most luxurious SUV, but a pretty good one nonetheless. On top of that, of course, it is an SUV, which makes it a 4-seater. So of course you can have a couple of your friends in here. Now, in addition to all of those other things that I've already mentioned, the Pfister Astron is one of the fastest SUVs in the game. So not only is it very luxurious, but it is also very quick. I believe that this thing ranks 3rd in the SUVs category as far as racing goes, which makes it pretty damn good. And on the street, it handles like an absolute dream. It barely even feels like an SUV. It feels like a regular sort of sports car that's just got 4 doors. It's a pretty fantastic vehicle. Overall, I would definitely recommend picking up an Astron if you guys have some spare money lying around in Grand Theft Auto Online. Anyway guys, that is it for number 6. Let's move on to number 5. Alright guys, next up at number 5 we have the Galavanter Baller ST. Now this thing came out with the contract DLC very recently, and it was actually free to pick up right around Christmas time, but since then that offer has gone away, so this thing is not actually available to be bought at this current moment in GTA Online. However, it will be released very soon. Now the Galavanter Baller ST is the newest in a long line of previous Galavanter Ballers in Grand Theft Auto Online, and by far the Galavanter Baller ST is the best looking, the best performing, and has the nicest interior out of all of them. Now with that being said, the interior on this thing is not that great. However, the exterior of this car is where it really shines. You can of course equip this thing with a carbon roof, with a carbon front splitter, with hood options, rear bumper options, side skirt options, and many more options. So that is all good stuff for the Galavanter Baller ST. As far as the performance goes, it is also a very good performing SUV. Definitely within the top 10 SUVs in the entire game, I would say, but don't quote me on that. The Galavanter Baller ST is definitely a very luxurious vehicle, being based off of a Range Rover Sport or a Range Rover Sport SVR in real life, which of course everybody knows Range Rovers in real life are known for being a very luxurious vehicle, also very unreliable, but we'll ignore that. Because in GTA, you don't really have to do maintenance to your cars, luckily, so that's awesome. The Galavanter Baller ST is definitely a car to look out for, guys. I'm not sure how much this thing is actually going to go for when it properly gets released into Grand Theft Auto Online, but whenever it does, I would definitely recommend picking one of these things up if you guys are looking for a luxury SUV. Anyway guys, that is it for number 5. Let's move on to number 4. Alright guys, and at number 4 we have the ENUS Deity. Now this thing was also released with the contract DLC in Grand Theft Auto Online, and it is one of my favorite luxury vehicles in the entire game now. I was always a big fan of the Paragon R, which was added with the casino update in Grand Theft Auto Online, and the ENUS Deity is basically an elongated upgraded version of that car. Overall, I think this is a pretty fantastic looking vehicle. I'm really glad that we actually have this in GTA. It's based largely off of a Bentley Flying Spur, but you could also argue that it is based off of a Mulsanne. Of course, it is a 4-seater like most cars on this list, and the performance of it is not bad either. Now, you're not going to win any races with this thing, however, in free mode, it is a very nice car to have. In addition to all of these things, it is also equipable with Imani tech, so that means you can put a missile lock-on jammer on this vehicle, or of course you can put on a remote control function as well. In addition to that, you can also put armor plating on this thing, as well as equip it with machine guns and a oil slick proximity mine dropper, which are very nice options to have on a car that is as luxurious as this thing is. Overall, the DUTY is a great car. I would highly recommend picking this thing up, especially with those Imani tech upgrades. Anyway guys, that is it for number 4. Let's move on to number 3. Alright guys, next up at number 3 we have the ENUS Windsor Drop. Now this thing has been regarded as the most luxurious car in Grand Theft Auto Online before, and I would agree that it is definitely in the top 3. Obviously that's where I've placed it on my list. I definitely think it deserves to be here. It is of course the only convertible vehicle that is going to be on this list, and of course it is also a 4-seater, which is very nice. Now as far as the interior goes, it is not the best on this car, however it's not the worst either. Definitely there are cars with worse interiors in this game. Of course, like I said, it is actually a convertible, so if I want to, I can put the roof up just like this, which is a pretty luxurious feature, I've got to say. Although it looks completely terrible with the roof up in my opinion, you can still do that. Now of course this thing is a big luxurious land yacht within the game, so its handling and performance overall are going to be a little tiny bit underwhelming. This thing is very similar to the ENUS Super Diamond, where the back end likes to drift out on it quite a bit. It definitely has something to do with the fact the car is so long. I think it gives the back end of it a lot more weight to throw around, so you can get into some pretty good drifts with this thing, which I'm not really sure that that's what you want, but of course you can do it. Overall, you're definitely not going to win any races with this thing, but for cruising around in Grand Theft Auto Online, it is a very solid vehicle, and it is most definitely quite luxurious. Anyway guys, that is pretty much all I've got to say about the ENUS Windsor Drop. Let's move on to number 2. Alright guys, next up at number 2 we of course have the ENUS Jubilee. Now this thing was a pretty big disappointment as far as the interior of the vehicle goes. It basically looks the same as out of a 1993 Honda Civic, but the outside of the car is what really matters here. Now the ENUS Jubilee is of course based off of the ROLLS ROYCE Cullinan in real life, which is a very luxurious vehicle, which is also why a lot of the community was mad about the interior of this thing being so pathetic. Regardless of that though, I do think that the ENUS Jubilee has a very strong standing place at number 2 on this list. It is an absolutely fantastic looking car. Rockstar absolutely nailed it with the look of this vehicle overall, I feel like, and of course it does have some really cool upgrade options. This thing, very similar to the ENUS DUTY that we covered a few spots ago, also has Imani tech, so you can put a missile lock-on jammer on this thing. You can also put a remote control device on it. You can also put weaponry on it like machine guns or a proximity mine oil slick dropper. Of course, you can also equip this thing with armor, which gives it bullet-resistant windows and a set of pretty heavy armor on itself that will protect it against up to 6 RPGs. Anyway guys, regardless of how you feel about the interior of the ENUS Jubilee, I do definitely think that it deserves to be on this list. It is one of the best luxury vehicles that we have in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. Now I do wish that the interior was better, however it is something that we are going to have to ignore, at least for the time being. Maybe one day Rockstar will release a patch and actually fix the interior on this thing. However, I kinda doubt it. Anyway guys, that is it for number 2. Let's move on to the number 1 most luxurious car in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. Alright guys, and at number 1 we of course have the ENUS Windsor. This thing was probably pretty predictable for being in the number 1 spot because it is just one of the most luxurious cars in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. The ENUS Windsor is an absolutely fantastic car. Definitely not the fastest car ever, but as far as luxury goes, it does not get much better than this thing. The ENUS Windsor, like many of the other cars on this list, is based off of a Rolls Royce, which is of course the most luxurious brand in real life. I don't think that anyone is going to dispute that. However, if you'd like to, the comments are open. The ENUS Windsor has a really cool little feature on the front of it, which is of course the front badging, kind of similar to the Spirit of Ecstasy on a real Rolls Royce, except GTA's own sort of version of it. Now, getting inside of this car, you are definitely not going to win any races with it. However, just driving it around in free mode, it is a pretty fast car, definitely fast enough for what you will need in the average day in GTA, nothing too crazy. Overall, the ENUS Windsor is just a fantastic car. I don't really have all that much to say about it. It really doesn't have that many customization options or anything like that, but I do feel like it is the most luxurious car in the entire game, at least at this point. Hopefully we get some even better cars in the near future, but we'll just have to wait and see. Anyway guys, that is pretty much it for this list. Let me know what you guys thought of my list in the comments down below. Let me know if you guys would like to see another part to this video, and I think that's pretty much it. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, if not dislike, subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.